Good morning. Good morning. Happy hump day on this February 26th. Welcome to Breakfast with Bridgett. I'm Bridgett Ellison. You're watching on News 6 Plus, clickorlando.com and the WKMG YouTube channel. And we have a live interview with an expert this morning about kids' online safety and some of the latest trends. Bark Technologies has put out the latest report on some startling concerns and things to watch out for. So there's always something that you need to stay ahead of. So we'll get to that with an expert coming up a little later. But we want to get you ready to head out the door on this hump day. We started out with a little bit of fog. And Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos is in the Pinpoint Weather Center. And Candace, it wasn't too thick, but we did see some out there. So how's it looking now?
Yeah, conditions are still pretty widespread when it comes to some of that dense fog, Bridget, across our far western zone. So up and down 75. That's pretty much where the worst of it is right now. But conditions will continue to improve, though, as we head within the next hour or so. By 9 a.m., we shall all be pretty much done with this fog. So let's take it to the maps and show you where the fog is kind of at the worst right now. It's Leesburg and Ocala. You can see that visibility there is less than about a mile, where it says 0, that's about a quarter of a mile or so. So seeing the worst of it right now in Ocala. Now, we can't rule out the chance of you running through some of that patchy fog up and down I-4, some areas in along 95. But for the most part, most of us are looking relatively clear, with the exception of our western communities. Elsewhere around Central Florida, we are seeing a few upper 40s in northern Lake and Sumter, Marion County. Right now, Apopka is at 49 degrees. Bithlo is at 53. Kissimmee at 54. And then along the coastline, look at you guys in Palm Coast dipping down into those 40s. But we're about 10 degrees warmer the further south you travel. Along the coast, we're at 57 currently there in Cocoa Beach. Speaking of beaches, if you're planning on heading out and enjoying the beach for today, the weather is much nicer, a lot more sunshine than we had yesterday at this point. For the surf, not too bad, 1 to 2 feet. The breeze will be out of the northeast, keeping conditions pretty comfortable throughout the day with our high stay in the mid-70s. But, you know, if you're like the rest of us who just got to get to work and school or whatnot today, it's still going to be a nice day. If you have the opportunity, maybe take a longer walk outside, maybe take lunch outdoors. The weather is going to be very nice, very comfortable, running right where they should be for this time of the year. Now, we are going to warm up just a hair on Thursday, all ahead of this approaching cold front. We're going to stay dry. But as that cold front moves through overnight, you'll barely notice it's coming through. We have very little rain associated with it. But once it comes through, we will start noticing some cooler temperatures by Friday. Is it a big drastic drop that we're pulling out all the sweaters and, you know, the fire pits? I don't see that happening, but we're going to be in those mid to low 70s on Friday, just kind of reinforcing the comfortable air in place. And then as of now, because of that cold front, it looks like the coldest point of the week will come early Saturday morning. For your early weekend risers, we'll be down into those mid-40s in Ocala, Palm Coast, the Villages. Could get close to those 40s as well as far south as Orlando. But that cooler air is not going to stick around long. As you can see here, this is issued by the Climate Prediction Center, and they kind of forecast past that kind of 7 to 10 day mark. This takes us all the way through the first week of March. And as you can see here, we're certainly going to be trending much warmer than average. So our average for this time of the year right now is about 77 degrees. Looks like we'll be running above that throughout most of next week as we officially ring in March, the third month of the year already. It's crazy because there's some points where it slows down and then all of a sudden you blink and it speeds up and then it slows down again. The beginning of the year is always a wonky one.
Yeah. And so 3 weeks left of winter, but...
Technically, yes. And then I believe daylight savings officially begins, I think it was on the 10th, right? Is it the 10th of March?
So.
Hold on. 9th, Sunday, March 9th.
That's coming up fast, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up fast. But at least we'll get a little more sunshine later on in the day for those who may be trying to enjoy a little bit more of that sunshine, the warmer weather.
For sure. All right. Thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
All right. We want to check in with meteorologist Michelle Morgan. She is filling in for Trooper Steve this morning, watching those roads for us. And hi, Michelle. How's it going?
Hey, Bridget. It's going good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, the fog is definitely slowing people down on the roads. Thankfully, I'm not looking at any major crashes at the moment. So if you're getting ready, about to head out the door, traffic is looking regular for this time of the day. It's 7:30 in the morning, so pretty busy in and out of the city. Now, as we take a look at a few crashes I am tracking here, this one involving a truck. As you're heading towards 524 westbound near East Industry Road, you can see some red on your screen there as I zoom things in there. So if you are headed out that way, you can see it right there. I expect some slowdowns. Looking at another crash as you are heading, this is near University Park, and it's not really causing any major issues here. This is on 534 as you're going northbound. So just watch out for that there. And then overall, in and out of the city is still looking pretty good. I mean, overall in the green. So the Florida Turnpike, the 408, Highway 27, Highway 50, 192, all looking good. Just seeing your regular congestion here along I-4 eastbound near 27. So that's right near the Champions Gate area. So if that's part of your commute, definitely allow extra time. Last checked, I saw bumper to bumper traffic and also areas of fog. Now, as we take a look at a few drive times, now we're beginning to see some red here on your screen as you're heading I-4 eastbound. This is Osceola Parkway, so the Kissimmee area to State Road 50, and that's downtown. It'll take you about 15 minutes. You can see that arrow pointing to the red section. And then 528 westbound, still looking pretty smooth, 436 to I-4. It'll take you about 11 minutes. So really not bad this morning in terms of the traffic flow across Central Florida. So you shouldn't really have any issues. Of course, the buses are out and about this morning. So just make sure you're being careful and taking it slow and paying attention because of the fog. Because again, the fog is pretty bad in a few spots.
All righty. Well, thank you, Michelle. Are you back with us tomorrow or?
Tomorrow morning, no, I am not.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, it was good to have you this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you again soon. Bye. All right, we want to get to a few headlines this morning. Today actually is a somber time because today marks 1 year since 13-year-old Madeline Soto was reported missing and then tragically found dead days later. And her mother's boyfriend is awaiting trial on murder charges now. And News 6's Angie Casada is in Kissimmee with some new legal insight on the case.
It was February 26 of 2024 when Madeline Soto was first reported missing after her mother went to pick her up at Hunters Creek Middle School, only to find out she wasn't there. Her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, initially told investigators he dropped Madeline off nearby, but investigators believe he murdered the girl that morning and dumped her body in a rural area in Osceola County. Now, a year later, Stearns' legal team is fighting to keep key pretrial hearings closed to the public.
This is not uncommon. You know, you have seen motions like this before in the Casey Anthony case, in other local cases as well, where there has just been a large amount of media coverage. These are the sort of motions that defense counsel are going to file.
Stearns' attorneys have also filed motions to suppress evidence, including data from his cell phone, data prosecutors say contains explicit material involving Madeline. They're also challenging the death penalty in this case.
A large amount of motions filed by defense counsel, and I know defense counsel in this case, several of them. They're very talented, very experienced, very smart attorneys. They are going to be thorough in terms of ensuring that they are getting pretrial rulings, whether it's in Mr. Stearns' favor or not.
Despite these legal battles, the case against Stearns appears strong, with digital evidence, surveillance video, and witness testimony, all pointing to his role in Madeline's tragic death.
And there's been extensive coverage on this case. News 6 investigator Mike DeForest took a deep dive in the files, documents, and evidence that's been released so far. And he has police interviews as well. You can watch a full Justice for Maddie that is on the WKMG YouTube channel, and you can see his whole series there and all of the work he's been doing to follow along with the updates on this case. Now to the latest in the gubernatorial race for Florida as Governor DeSantis is nearing that term limit. We're still 600 days out from the election, but someone has entered their name in for the running, and we have learned that Republican Representative Byron Donalds officially announced he is entering. He was, of course, endorsed by President Trump. News 6's Mark Lehman is taking a closer look at this, as well as another familiar face, the First Lady of Florida, also a possible candidate.
I'm here to announce my candidacy to be the next governor of the great state of Florida.
After an announcement on Fox News last night, Congressman Byron Donalds is becoming the first candidate to throw his hat in the race to succeed Governor Ron DeSantis in 2026.
I was able to serve 4 years in the state legislature, 4 years in Congress, and I think now is the time to now take the mantle and lead our state into the future.
The bid comes less than a week after President Trump endorsed Donalds with a message on Truth Social saying he'd be a powerful governor for Florida. That could be at odds with DeSantis, who can't run again because of term limits. In recent days, he's suggested his wife Casey could run for governor and that Donalds hasn't been part of the state's conservative victories.
And she's somebody that has, I think, the intestinal fortitude and the dedication to conservative principles that anything we've accomplished, she'd be able to take to the next level.
Donalds addressing the possible showdown between him and Florida's First Lady, saying he's focusing on his plan for the state's future.
Honestly, right now, it's very early. I'm the only person in this race right now, so we'll see what happens.
Now to a story we're following up on. Several local law enforcement agencies say they got results with a big crackdown on so-called street takeovers. This is illegal, but FHP, Orlando Police, and the Orange County Sheriff's Office say that an operation over the weekend along Orange Blossom Trail ended up in more than 500 tickets. They had to seize or impound 4 vehicles, and many people were arrested. So Mike Valenti has more on what's happening with this latest crackdown.
While News 6 has yet to obtain requested video of this street takeover event in question, the footage in our archives from other incidents dates back years.
What makes them so dangerous is the high speed and the reckless behavior of the drivers. When you're, doing donuts in an intersection and your car is sliding all over the place, you're losing control, eventually someone's going to get hit and killed.
We caught up with Sheriff John Mina at a community barbecue Tuesday. It's an issue he's grown accustomed to discussing. Last year, he championed a bill that was eventually signed into law, stiffening penalties for street racing, including making the second offense a felony. Police say as part of this operation, they responded to multiple sites, but ultimately the target of their focus was a parking lot on South Orange Blossom Trail. The night ended with felony and misdemeanor arrests. 4 vehicles were impounded. Detectives even recovering a stolen car. In addition, the agencies handed out 515 tickets, 477 of them for people watching and cheering on the races.
What the spectators need to know is that the street takeovers, the street racing is extremely dangerous to everyone and to them as well. So we believe that if the spectators stop coming, then the street racing will stop, and that's why we target the spectators as well.
Sheriff Mina told me some of the people implicated in this incident were going over 100 miles an hour. He's now throwing his public support behind legislative efforts in Tallahassee that would increase punishments for drivers clocked going triple digits. Mike Valenti, Getting Results, News 6.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with an expert on online safety, especially for kids. Welcome back. This morning, we want to focus on kids and online usage and safety. This morning, we have Titania Jordan from Bark Technologies with us to talk about some recent data that really reflects some of the alarming trends and issues that we need to watch for. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, your company, Bark Technologies, you work for, compiled a list and some data from 2024 that really shows some surprising information.
It never fails to amaze us. And it's heavy on our hearts to see the rate at which children are experiencing harmful content and harmful people online. And we help to protect over 7.4 million children across the nation. And as you mentioned, over 2024, we analyzed over 8 billion data points.
And so, what are some of the main takeaways that we need to watch out for right now?
Oh, gosh. First, please just don't think not my child. Good kids are making bad choices because they're children, and the rate at which children are encountering things like self harm and suicide, sexual content, bullying, disordered eating, predation is so much higher than any one of us might think. I'll share a stat that I think will give everybody pause, and that's 63% of teens. I'm sorry, 63% of tweens and 77% of teens encountered nudity or content of a sexual nature. And the sexual content that is accessible online today is very, very different than what most parents may have encountered as children, back in the 80s and 90s, right? It's just a different, misinformed world out there. Also, to note, suicide is the second leading cause of death in children in this nation, and 37% of tweens and 60% of teens were involved in a self harm or suicidal situation over 2024.
That is alarming. It seems like kids get a hold of technology, at very young ages now. And so it sometimes feels like a Pandora's box of sorts. So, what are some of the main things that you can do to try to protect them, including communicating with them, but also maybe, some safeguards that you can build into the devices?
You know, as a parent, I have a 16-year-old. Hearing this data, it's overwhelming. And you also, frankly, think, I don't think that's going to happen to my kid, and I'll know if they're struggling. I'm here to tell you, you are very likely will not know. And so, what you need to do to proactively prevent that sort of thing is to have frequent, open, candid conversations with your children about uncomfortable topics in age appropriate ways so that they look to you as the safe place. Also, please don't give your children unfettered, unmonitored access to tech. There are safer tech options out there, like the Bark phone, like the Bark watch, like a flip phone, right? You don't have to give them an iPhone, and you don't have to hand them over a Chromebook that has no parental controls. So take the time to Google safer tech for children and make sure when they access tech, it's safer. Finally, please do not let children have connected tech in the bedrooms behind closed doors overnight. That's just a recipe for disaster.
And you talked about like the Bark phone. I've heard of the Bark phone. It entails more parental controls. So is that something that's more and more available in terms of, all types of devices from phones to tablets?
Yes, most of the connected tech that you have in your home, good news, has free built in parental controls already in it. You just have to turn it on, which means, parents, you have another thing on your to do list, but I would argue that it's the most important thing to tackle today. So Google whatever your child can access, whether it's an iPhone, a PlayStation, a tablet from Amazon. Google whatever it is plus the words parental controls, figure out how to turn it on. Even your internet service provider, whatever brings the internet into your home, they have parental controls and time limits and filters as well. So you just have to do a little bit of legwork to make the tech that your kids access safer.
We've had several news stories recently about some troubling trends with games like Roblox and even problems with YouTube, even YouTube Kids. What are some of the recommendations you say for, trying to use games and different search engines like that?
If your child plays Roblox, and it's understandable if they do, it's the most popular platform for children ages 5 to 12, you have to know that there are predators on that platform, a lot of them. There are bad things happening on that platform. But the good news is that Roblox has built-in parental controls that you can turn on. For example, turning off the ability to chat with strangers and making sure there are filters that are filtering out more problematic content. Also keep in mind that the Bark phone can monitor Roblox. So if your kid's playing on the Bark phone and somebody does somehow figure out how to message them, you'll get an alert saying, hey, potential predator, here's what you need to know. It's not about punishing the kid or removing every form of access from them, but you've got to be in the know. Also, your kid doesn't have to play Roblox to be okay. I know that they want it. I know everybody is begging for it. But as my friend Chris McKenna of Protect Young Eyes says, delay is the way. Your children will be happier and healthier, both physically and mentally, if you do not give them all of the things all at once.
I mean, is there a time frame or recommended time frame on when that they can, use screens or use phones, or has that really been determined?
The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends, depending on the age level of the child, right? For older children, no more than 2 hours a day. And it's less about the time spent online and more about the quality of what they are consuming. And ideally, they're less passively consuming content and more using the tech to create or to authentically connect with people they actually know in real life. So less is more, and no tech in the bedrooms overnight. When it comes to social media, I know the platforms say that you should be 13 before you use them. Well, according to Jonathan Haidt of the very popular book, The Anxious Generation, it's more like 16. Wait until 16 because their minds and their hearts aren't ready. The 36 months between age 13 and 16 are critical. You can delay and they will be okay. When it comes to a smartphone, it depends on what kind of smartphone. If you give your child an iPhone and do not set parental controls when they're in third grade, that is a recipe for disaster. Please hear me clearly. If you give them a safer smartphone just so they can connect with mom, dad, babysitter, 911, they're going to be okay.
When we talk about a lot of these mental health issues that are being developed because of this exposure, a lot of times this is not predator related. These are people that they know. This is, situations
Yes.
that are creating bullying situations, insecurities, and, feeding in a lot of negative energy. How do you safeguard kids from those types of environments?
I am so glad you brought this up because, yes, children's peers and even their friends are misinformed about the amount of pain and harm that they can cause their friends from a simple, flippant text message. And children are on group chats saying horrible things to each other. And these are good kids with good hearts from good homes, but they cave to peer pressure. They think it's the cool thing to do. They're trying to elicit a response. They're trying to fit in. And it is very, very heavily impacting children's mental health. In fact, ask any pediatrician, any local pediatrician, how much of their day is now spent triaging children's mental health issues as a result of tech access. It's around 30%. And that just shouldn't be. So children are experiencing very real mental health issues and physical issues because they don't want to leave the house. They don't want to move their bodies. They're not sleeping. They're not eating. Their grades are dropping because of just text-based messages that they can receive from the kids that you have over to your house for dinner.
Yeah, and it takes a whole lot of sort of building them up, and like you said, having that relationship where you can talk about anything because they are being attacked for how they look, or creating insecurities about their bodies, and then sometimes different things that are for older kids, and younger kids are thinking that that's something that they need to do, whether it's like these skin routines that you see on social media and things like that. And little kids don't need to worry about a 10-step skincare routine, just for an innocent example, but still that's kind of how it starts, with sort of growing them up too fast, I think.
Absolutely. I'll never forget when my son asked me, I think at age 12, how to he wanted to get a six-pack because of what he saw on TikTok. And he was asking about calorie restriction. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Your body needs a lot of calories right now so you can grow as tall as you were meant to grow. The addictive algorithms that children can fall prey to. I keep talking about the dangers, and I thank you because you keep reminding me, but what can we do? So let me talk about that. We've talked about the conversations. But what kind of conversations? Just talking to your children about the fact that these devices and apps and games that they spend time in, while they feel good initially, they make your brain light up, they spike your dopamine, they can actually be bad for you, which was why we've tried to limit the time and limit the access. So help them to understand just the science behind what tech does to you. Help them to understand that these social media platforms generate $11 billion in revenue just off of children year over year. And so they don't have a vested interest in prioritizing their health and safety. But you, their parent, you do. You can monitor, please, please, please don't just hand your kid a thing and think, oh, I'll know if there's a problem. You won't. You won't. They're too afraid to talk to you about it. They don't want you to punish them or take away their form of entertainment
Right.
or access to their friends. So make sure they know that you're a safe place. They can come to you with anything that might be bothering them, anything that they saw online that might be confusing, and you'll figure it out together. Because children are turning to Dr. Google and Dr. TikTok to give them information, and they need to be coming to parents.
That's right. Well, Ms. Jordan, thank you so much. And we're going to attach a link to the report from Bark Technology so people can take a closer look. But thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. And that's going to do it for us. I will be posting all that information a little bit later, and we'll see you at noon. Take care.